Hi, everyone, and welcome to Season 5 of Stand Up and Stand Out. Can you believe it? Already to Season 5? It has been a whirlwind year already. A lot has happened. You guys know after listening to Season 4 that I just launched Chameleon Mindset, my new book about how to embrace change and build mental resilience to transform your life and career. Lots more information, obviously, coming on Chameleon Mindset. We'll have the new online course coming soon. We've been doing lots of webinars, and I'll be on the road for the book tour. So hopefully you'll get to catch up together soon. Because why not just do another one? I have another book that just came out, The Great LeadHERshipAwakening. In this book, I collaborated with 20 other amazing women. Each of them contributed a chapter talking about when their leadership was awakened and part of their transformation, maybe over the pandemic or maybe over a longer period of time, really stepping into their power and showing what it means to truly be a leader. Welcome back to Season 5 of Stand Up and Stand Out. I am really excited about this season as we interview the amazing women in the anthology book, The Great LeadHERshipAwakening. And today's guest is Linda Fisk. Linda and I are friends for many years now. We belong to LeadHERship Global, which is an organization that Linda runs, connecting women who are trying to branch out, stand up, and really start a movement. So thank you so much for joining us today, Linda. It's great to see you.
Oh my gosh, Nikki, what a pleasure and what a privilege to be on your podcast. I feel like I have been a fan of yours for years. I've listened to your podcast loyally. And you have the most fascinating guests and you have the most impactful conversations on your podcast. So to be a part of it is just, honestly, it's a thrill.
Oh, thank you. And it was such a privilege. And, just in October last year, you hosted us and we had this amazing women's retreat as a part of LeadHERship Global, where many of us connected for the first time in person. And we're going to get to do it today in Beverly Hills as we do the book launch. I'm so excited. How do you feel differently, like actually getting back in person with folks?
Yeah, I think that Zoom actually can, and any kind of digital platform that allows you to actually communicate visually and through audio, does do a phenomenal job of connecting people. It's a wonderful way of developing relationships with women all over the world. And in my mind, that has been able to really break down geographical barriers, timelines, zip codes. It's been a wonderful way to connect women from all over the world. And in LeadHERship Global, we have, thousands and thousands of women that are literally in every single corner of the globe, from Africa to Europe to Australia, New Zealand, South America, North America. But it's the in-person connections that I think make that relationship sustainable. And that's where you find real transformation, when you can spend time with someone and really listen to them and feel their energy and be able to have the time and space necessary to have a really deep and exciting exchange of ideas, exchange of options and possibilities, to be able to problem solve together, to be able to celebrate together. I feel like that's where real community happens. And so I'm so excited that we've had many opportunities to do that. We had a weekend retreat in Monterey, California. We've had a weekend retreat in Dallas, Texas. And now we have a book launch in Beverly Hills, California, where many of the members of LeadHERship Global are featured in the book, The Great LeadHERshipAwakening. And so as a membership community, we get to come together and celebrate the launch of this tremendous book.
Oh, fantastic, Linda. I'm so excited for today. We're going to be going live. So those that are actually catching everything right now, it's going to be exciting. We'll reintroduce some of the live outtakes as we put together the podcast. For me, this book is really exciting. It's really a special thing for us to be able to share together. Let's talk a little bit about your chapter and the story you wanted to tell as we collaborate on this book.
Absolutely. So I talk about an experience I had as a young child when people in authority around me discovered that I was adopted. And the way that my parents had always described my adoption was to position it as a place where I was deemed as being unique and special and different because I was adopted, because they chose me and adopted me into their family. But in the years that I was growing up, there wasn't as much acceptance around the idea of adoption. And although I had always been told that I was special and my parents desperately wanted to have a child, and I was told that of all the children they could have chosen, they adopted me. And that made me unique, chosen, special. And I was told that it was actually good to be different, that being different made you memorable, and that there was no way to really hide that I was different because both my parents are a different race from me, and that I was adopted into this family very specifically and purposefully. My father was American Indian and my mother was Asian. And I was a blonde, blue eyed little girl with alabaster skin. So I didn't look like either of my parents or their extended families. But my parents always reassured me that being distinctive makes you more interesting and that being different makes you surprising. And that's good. But I found that other adults around me and people in authority, as a family, we were often described as unusual, different, or strange. In public outings, I would catch really inquisitive glances and sometimes even accusatory stares as people tried to fit the puzzle pieces together. They saw my parents looking very different from me, and they just would wonder, who does that little girl belong to? And sometimes we would actually catch the whispers of those around us, asking, whose little girl is that? Who does she really belong to? And sometimes well meaning strangers would be bold enough to actually directly ask my parents, who are you babysitting for? Or who does that little girl belong to? And without hesitation, my parents would announce, she's our daughter, and didn't feel a need to provide any kind of further explanation. So I love that my parents chose to adopt me. And they didn't necessarily want me to adopt their culture or their physical attributes or their characteristics or even their personality. They simply encouraged me to discover who I was and to embrace the differences between us, because it's those points of differentiation that will become my story and that will become my strengths. And I unfortunately experienced a lot of discrimination, a lot of suspicion, a lot of ostracism when people would see me with my family in those early years. And I will tell you, in the years since, some of the very embarrassing and humiliating experiences that I outline in my chapter, I realized that sometimes your differences can be polarizing. They can be alienating and they can be repelling to others. And sometimes embracing who you are means intentionally exasperating, irritating, and provoking, maybe even aggravating other people. Sometimes it could even instigate hostility. But I've learned that the more some people hate you, the more other people will love you. And that's okay.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I talk about this a lot and how important is that we redefine family. Family are the people that step up and take care of the kids. It doesn't matter what DNA and what things are going on. There are so many people that, naturally have children, but they're just not ready for that activity. It's a lot of work to raise kids. And I'm thankful I had actually 6 parents raising me. I took a lot of work. But again, it's that looking around and being able to know they love me no matter what we look like, no matter how similar or different we are, and that it's okay for all of us to be that unique version of ourselves. And I just say, this is why I always try to help back the next generation as well, is there's so many people that just really stood out throughout my life who came and made sure to guide me, to mentor me, to allow me to be that unique personality that, not a lot of kids always get. And so you have to really appreciate those people that do bravely step forward and say, yes, I am going to care for this child and make sure that they have a good life.
Yeah. But when I was growing up, again, I'm a bit older than you are, Nikki, but when I was growing up, the sitcom Father Knows Best with Robert Young and Jane Wyatt and their 3 perfect kids, that really represented what a family was supposed to be. And any family that did not neatly fit into that tightly defined mold, consisting of a husband, a wife, and 2 or 3 children was pretty scandalous. Adoption was considered shameful. And I remember hearing whispered comments for literally years and years about my identity as the adopted kid. And it was often uttered with pity or suspicion and sometimes even scorn. But since the time I was growing up, I will say that attitudes have dramatically changed around adoption, which I really celebrate. And now sitcoms treat adoption as an accepted, even beautiful way to become a family. In fact, the more contemporary sitcom that I often reference is Modern Family, where there are two dads now often depicted as really devoted, doting parents, and the entire extended family, which includes, pretty quirky stepfather, stepson relationship. And it's devoted to an adopted daughter of these two loving dads that come together to raise this adopted daughter. And I think that people see that model now and they embrace it and they recognize the beauty of love universally, no matter if this is their biological child or not. But what I learned from my experience is that, in fact, your differences, what other people may consider to be even your flaws, often hold the key to what makes you incredibly special. So sometimes being flawed and being very open and transparent about it can actually be the most attractive trait at all because it allows everyone around you to feel accepted, feel safe. And in fact, most people want to follow leaders that are absolutely brilliant, despite being human and despite having flaws. And the more that they see you embracing those flaws, not just admitting them, not just being transparent and open about them, but embracing them, the more that they feel willing to disclose who they really are so that you can accept all of them, the good, the bad, and even those places where someone may feel shame.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nikki Green, and I am a life and business resiliency expert. I have been helping people for over 2 decades overcome their challenges and achieve their life and business goals. I wrote Chameleon Mindset for others seeking clarity while acclimating to new situations. This entertaining yet research-based guide to transitions will open your mind to unique strategies for finding purpose and achieving your goals. Through my new book, you will create the happy life you desire with 5 philosophies for change, beginning with C for creative adaptability. Move from resistance to resilience by assessing and adjusting your risk tolerance. The practical lessons in Chameleon Mindset will help you shift your mindset, sharpen your skill set, and overcome the things holding you back from dealing with change. We'll have the new online course coming soon. There are half a dozen modules in total, but the way you choose to pursue your destiny, it's up to you. Each module can be done independently or repeated as necessary to tackle new obstacles and new goals in your life. And you can earn extra Chameleon coins for uncovering them. What are Chameleon coins, you might ask? These are reward XP that you can earn to purchase additional Chameleon Mindset benefits as you progress through the course. You can get swag, group coaching, one-on-one coaching, exclusive event tickets, and networking opportunities. And if you collect enough coins, you can even earn a full-day VIP intensive with me to work solely on your goals. And by joining the Chameleon crew, you will also gain access to my network of thousands of influential people around the world with expertise to help you on your business, your personal endeavors, health and fitness, and so much more. Reserve a copy today and click below to be added to our subscriber list. I just love that. And I know people are going to love this book. There's so many amazing stories in here. In my chapter, I talk about the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde leaders, those people that are false to the world, that they're showing themselves in a way that is not authentic. It doesn't genuinely represent who they are, where they've come from, and where they're still trying to go, and that we're all a work in progress and really trying to, strangely enough, be that Dr. Jekyll. Because if you try to suppress too much of it, you're not going to be happy. And at some point it is going to come out. And I'm just so thankful for so many people like you, Linda, who are really showcasing, never judge our book by a cover. You never know what's actually going on the inside, the experiences that we have, and the things that we can share with others to make them, like you said, feel comfortable and vulnerable and able to share of themselves as well.
So smart, Nikki. I love that. I will tell you, in my experience, it's very common for leaders to feel the pressure to assimilate to acquiesce, to homogenize, right? And as we look to what other successful leaders are doing, what they are saying, what they're recommending, it's natural to try to emulate them, especially if we hold them in high regard. Brene Brown is probably one of the most quoted leaders of our time. And many times I find coaches and consultants and leaders trying to emulate Brene, but there's only one Brene Brown. And in my mind, this practice of trying to assimilate, trying to acquiesce, trying to homogenize, trying to affiliate yourself with someone else has actually a very detrimental outcome. And that is you never really recognize your gifts. It never really recognizes your truth, your giftedness, your talents, your uniqueness. If we minimize our differences, we begin to replicate the practices of other successful leaders, but it misses the point because you're not able to provide your gifts in the way that you were designed. And so in my mind, we need to not just benchmark against other leaders. We need to try to find out what other people are doing right and then learn from that, but also understand what makes each and every one of us unique and different and really embrace that.
So true, Linda. And it's amazing. I mean, through Leadership Global, you've supported so many women and you're just a great connector. And I think this is another important part of, sort of the feminine aspect of this as well, is that we are really trying to build a tend and befriend. It's not fight or flight. We're not all here against each other. It's not me versus you. It's us together collectively. And the more I can help and impart my wisdom, the faster you can learn to find your center of genius and then continue to elevate, and we keep helping each other. I just love that you do that. And I know it's a passion for you to continue helping women. And Leadership Global is just such a fantastic organization. I'm so glad to be a part of it.
Nikki, not only are you an incredibly inspiring leader in and of your own right, creating phenomenal impact, but you have provided so much value to the other extraordinary leaders in LeadHERship Global. You are always the first one to raise your hand if someone needs help with pricing strategy or how to launch a book or how to begin a podcast. You are always the first one to say, I can help. Book time with me. Let me introduce you. And I love that. And I love that you also have really embraced your uniqueness. And I find that the best leaders often emphasize their, perceived flaws. They admit their mistakes and shortcomings, and they openly talk about what they've learned from their failures. These leaders focus on learning the strength, the resilience, and the growth that they have experienced through their mistakes, through their flaws, through their failures, through their missteps and shortcomings. They accept them. They actually feature them. They highlight them. They expose them. They call attention to them. And it's their uniqueness that is a signature part of who they are. And they purposefully admit to and even point to the differences that they represent, and they embrace them. And Nikki, that's what I feel about you, is that you are so unique. You are so differentiated. You are such a powerful force of nature, but you don't try to necessarily fit in. You step out boldly with purpose and intention, and you impact the world with only the giftedness that you offer. And I feel like that in and of itself is the best leadership that you could possibly offer. Not only do you always step in to support other women, but you also represent the strength that I think all women have inside of them, which is to absolutely be who they are unapologetically. And you embody that. And you also, I think, give other women the courage to step into their own uniqueness with that same sense of boldness and purpose.
Thank you, Linda. It wasn't always easy. And this is one of the things I talk about is when I first started my career, I did feel all that pressure of you're supposed to conform, you're supposed to be more masculine or, just all of these things. And it just never sat right with me. And, I had so much abuse from when I was younger of really trying to find myself and being told I wasn't supposed to be that way. And I was always confused by it. And so now, as I started to really step into my leadership roles, became a manager in a high-tech company at all of 26, I started saying, no, I don't want to show people this is the way. I want to show people this is the real me. This is how you get ahead. This is how you help each other. You share, you build a community. And people wanted to work for me. People were constantly just coming up and be like, how can I get onto your team? And that felt good. That was a whole different perspective than most people like, oh, I don't work for that guy. That person's kind of a pain to work with. And it wasn't that I wasn't working hard. We were doing big things. We were working a lot of hours, but we were accomplishing it together, and people felt that sense of community. You spend, especially in a lot of these corporate jobs, and even as entrepreneurs, we work 60 plus hours a week. That's a lot of time to be spending with people you don't like and can't get along with. And so it's really finding and building that safe space for people to be themselves, do their best work, and continue, whether you're in a corporate job with other people or whether you're an entrepreneur, you don't have to do it together. The more we collaborate, the more we build community, then I just say the sky's the limit for all of us to be able to grow, prosper, and just make an amazing future together.
I love that, Nikki. And I feel like as a leader, you have to deeply understand the consistent themes that are embedded in your past, woven through your life's history, because those are the keys to your purpose and your future. You have to understand your limitations, your mistakes, your shortcomings, even your failures, and really examine those recurring issues in your life. And if you're able to carefully examine your past, especially your failures, that is essential to knowing your value. And so what I would say to anyone who's interested in being able to step out in a more authentic way and to be able to move past any area of shame in their life, to embrace their differences, to embrace their flaws, their limitations, their shortcomings, then I would say begin by identifying those aspects of your story, your identity, your leadership that makes you distinctive, that makes you different. Make a list of every possible limitation that you can think of, or perceived limitation, those things that other people have said is bad or wrong or should be hid or should be never disclosed, that type of thing. Think of anything that prevents you from being the leader that you think everyone expects you to be. Include information about your own fears, your doubts, as well as any perceived shortages of opportunities to be a leader that perhaps everyone respects and admires. List everything and then examine each one carefully and decide, is this really true or not? And you may be surprised at some of the things that you've convinced yourself to believe, ways that you have bought into the lie that being different is bad. Being different should be minimized. You should always try to be the same as or model yourself after. What I find is that the more that you release those beliefs, the more that you embrace who you really are, even those perceived failures and flaws, that's how some people achieve remarkable heights of greatness. They learn from their setbacks, their failures, their mistakes. They get up, they apply those learnings to their next attempt, and they embrace their differences. They embrace those things that make them distinctive, like you have.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, Linda, I'm so excited. We've got to get to our launch here pretty quick, so we're going to wrap things up. Thank you so much for being on the show, for being such a good friend, and just all the guidance you've given me over the past couple of years. It's been, rocky road through this pandemic, and it's this exciting to see all of these women coming together and envisioning a new future for all of us. So thank you so much for your time. In our show notes, we'll provide some information about Linda and LeadHERship Global if you guys are interested in being a part of it. And hopefully you guys have gotten a copy of the Great LeadHERshipAwakening, and you can learn more about Linda's story and the other wonderful women in this book.
Thank you so much, Nikki.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us today for another episode of Stand Up and Stand Out. You know you can catch us where all the cool kids hang out that do podcasts on all the major platforms. And if you want to connect with Nikki directly, you can get a hold of me on my personal site, thenikkiegreen360.com. There you can check out my website, you can see any of my new books, you can learn more about this podcast, and follow us on social. Can't wait to hear from you, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.